see it, Gareth? Do we want to see CM Punk in AEW in WWE? Like, I think Matty's going to say yeah. I'm willing to hear it out. Like, I just don't know. I think I want to see him in New Japan or something like that. Maybe he can put his money where his mouth is and do the G1 he alleged he wants to do at one point. Like,
he wouldn't last 2 matches, I'm going to say.
Like this is what makes it so sad for me. Me and you are the biggest Punk fans, I think, on this podcast. Like JP runs us close at times. JP's you're with us, aren't you, JP, as well? But like, I just don't know if I actually. Maybe it is the AEW fan in me that it'd just be sad to see them kind of get that victory, or it'd be sad to see Punk go from Collision as an entity was broken. You know, the idea that he was, you know, he had the run of the show, but he only had about 12 toys to play with because everyone else fucking hated him. You know, like you said, was never going to be a long-term play. Like, but CM Punk had his sandbox, could cut his promos the way he wanted, could have his matches the way he wanted, could have his feuds go the way he wanted. You know, to even get into WWE, I think he's going to need to, like, you know, we're going to need not a miracle, but we're going to need, like, you know, all the cards, all the stars to align and for that to happen. But even then, for it to work in WWE, they'd have to give him probably the power to cut the promos the way he likes to do his programs the way he likes to. Like, I'd need all of those things before I'd co-sign, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Because, like, he'd end up punching the Miz out and he'd be gone within a month based on, like, the Punk.
They've made up now, Benno. Remember he was backstage at Raw. They've made up, haven't they?
I'm not so sure about that, mate. But, like, I don't even know if I want to see it, I suppose, is the bigger point, Gareth. Like, do I want to see that? I think we all remember the great stuff of Punk in WWE, but do we want to see, like, a watered-down CM Punk trying to fit into, no offense to Matty, 2023 WWE product? Like, that's almost sadder for me. It makes me even sadder that this AEW run's gone the way it has.
I just don't think it could. Realistically, you take a step back and you think about it, and I just can't see how it could work. Like, when you think about Punk's psyche and his mentality since he joined AEW, and that's a guy who, like, had 8 years out of the business kind of thing. So he wasn't there in the day-to-day grind. He wasn't there today with all the politics and the backbiting and all that kind of thing, like, going on around him constantly. This is a guy who, in theory, should have matured by nearly a decade of his life, and, like, he's had pretty much a decade to just chill out and train and spend time with his wife and his dog and just kind of have no stress in his life and have plenty of money in the bank and all that kind of thing. So this is a guy who's, like, gone from that, you know, Shark Tank background to Easy Street to some degree, and then back into the mix at AEW, and he hasn't been able to hack it. Like mentally, he hasn't been able to hack the environment that he's been put in, which has, you know, quite clearly caused him to overreact to a lot of situations where he shouldn't have. Maybe he just hasn't read the room, and mentally he still thinks it's 2008 in his head and things like that, and he thinks he's in their dressing room with the JBL, is a good mate JBL of this world and things like that. You know, he thinks that's what the environment's like. You know, things have changed a lot as well. So I don't know if he could fit in to WWE from that perspective mentally, but even physically, I mean, people talk about him, the idea of him, you know, I don't know, he could have like a Brock Lesnar contract or something like that. He could do a few, like, you know, he could do 10 shows a year or something like that. But I mean, based on his track record in AEW, is his body even up to even that kind of thing? And you know, I look at things and I think that if he did go to WWE, first and foremost, they're going to say, right, look, we want you to prove that you can toe the line and you can fit in here, kind of thing. So that's one hurdle that he's going to have to do. There's no way they're throwing him right in there and sticking the world title on him or headlining WrestleMania immediately next April or something like that as he'd want, because they wouldn't have the trust in him to do that. You know, they'd want to know. You know, it's classic. They make you wait, kind of thing, don't they? You've got to, you know. So in theory, it's personally, I think he's got 18 months really to get that headline WrestleMania thing that would be in his head. That would be the carrot for him for him to want to go back there. I don't know if he could survive physically or mentally 18 months to even get to that point, like, anyway, sort of thing. So to me, it just feels like a bit of a new point, but I think he'll want to, because knowing what a vindictive bloke he is, he'll want to go there and he'll want to stick it to them. He'll absolutely want to.
100%.
He'll want to stick it up AEW's ass. He'll want to stick it up the Bucks' ass. He'll want to, be able to go, oh, 3 times as many people watched me this week as watched the Bucks, or he'll want to be there, like coming out at WrestleMania in front of like, a massive house kind of thing, knowing it's the big, genuinely, the biggest wrestling show of the year sort of thing, that he'll have something to say on the ramp and things. He'll have, you know what I mean? Like he'll want to stick it back in that way, because that's just the way that's the way he's made. And in many ways, if he did do that, I mean, it'd still be an entertaining ride, wouldn't it? I'd still like.
Oh, you should love it. You should love it still. Come on.
I don't want to see him there because of what my love of CM Punk is formed on to quite a lot of the degree. The idea of him then going and like he's having to be, I don't know, not bowed out at Triple H, but like, kind of, he's having a vested interest in his career direction. He's under Vince McMahon and things like that's like, to me, that some ways feels weaker than Tony Khan not sacking him in 12 months ago. It makes CM Punk weak that he has to eat that there was everything that he was fighting against in order to try and prove a point in some way back the other. It just all becomes really kind of like
he's found being a hypocrite. That's one thing we learned.
But it's sort of like,
1,000,000%.
It's turned, then who is he? Then who is he at that point, kind of thing? And then like,
I don't know.
Do you want to invest? Do you want to invest in that person, like as a fan? Because it's. I don't. It's.
When he's walking out with the voice of the voiceless T-shirt with a big WWE logo in the corner of
just
it.
open up
like those new NWO T-shirts.
Just him sitting on the ramp. Just let him sit on the ramp for opening.
This is what's so sad about it all, JP. Though, like AEW was tailor made for him. Like, and the shit out. As much as I love him, the shit out didn't join until 2 years in, when he was like, "All right, it's safe now, and they'll pay me the money I want." Like, for this voice of the voiceless punk rock indie spirit kind of guy. Like, he didn't take. We did the All In 2018 review. He wasn't there with that. He was in fucking Chicago. Couldn't come down the road. You know what I mean? He wasn't there for the start of AEW either. I think his story is a little bit upset by all of this, because he comes in and then he can't even join with the revolutionary spirit because he falls out with all the fucking revolutionaries. Like, so I actually think it would be he's Landlord Phil now, JP. Landlord Phil would absolutely go to WWE. It's just the question more for me is whether I want to see him do it. Like, with Gareth, out of spite, I think it's going to happen. Out of spite, he's going to try at the very least. But like, that kind of completes the story. He's whatever young punk rocker becomes, isn't it? You become the landlord you hate.
He would do, wouldn't he? And you can see it's about his vindictiveness, because in some ways New Japan would be able to be like, and even physically, I think the questions that Gareth asks is completely legit, because New Japan would almost be like the better fit, because he would come in and effectively just do his angles and his matches and go, and then that would be it, and it'd be an entirely different culture backstage. Because I completely agree. I think it's just wrestling and wrestlers just moved past the direction that he was used to, because effectively, like, this he never worked PWG, did he? It wasn't, and that's what AEW is at points. PWG with this enormous budget, as I saw like earlier in the comments. But yeah, him going back, you just think to yourself, with Mania, if the match is going to be Cody and Roman, they're the two best feuds you'd want him in. And if that match is happening at Mania, then it would have to be someone else, wouldn't it? Now, he could headline one of the 2 days. You can get away with it that way. It's that kind of carrot to dangle over him. But there is those kind of issues. It's a different ownership structure with TKO. So you're not entirely sure, like, on a hiring.
And he is in with that lot.
Yeah,
he loves staying away.
He does the commentary. And it should also be noted as well, I don't think there were problems with him in UFC. I mean, he was shit. That was the problem. Ultimately, he couldn't fucking fight for toffee. Couldn't fly out of a paper bag compared to those lads in there. But at the same time, he does commentary a lot on there as well. And yeah, that's going to be the thing about, do you bring it? They're the kind of 2 big feuds, and you think, well, Cena, we've kind of been there and done that, haven't we? So like, and if there's issues with Owens. There'll be issues with Sami Zayn. Like, you're thinking, who else really would you want to be putting him in there against? Because, once you get to those two, there's big money in it, though, and there's ratings. And WWE still is, at its core, at its bone marrow, an incredibly vindictive, fucking nasty company. Gareth brought up death of the territories. The word death in there is important because Vince McMahon killed them. And if there's some hit he can take about AEW, then he will fucking do that. And he will happily put him on NXT just to say, just to beat them that week, just to do that stuff. It's still their competition, and it's the most credible competition they've had in over 20 years. So as a result of that, that's going to be how it's the value is in bringing him in. There's a value in New Japan bringing him in as well. Don't get me wrong. And I think the match quality he had in AEW, if he is fit, you can have that. And I don't think he'll get very far if he tries to behave like he did in AEW. Because one thing you can't do is bring him back full time on the road. If you are bringing him in, it has to be selective dates and basically keep him away from the young ones in case he turns their minds evil.
I'd love him to do New Japan and end up on the same tour as Moxley, Jericho, all the same lads. Next month or something, be fucking hilarious. Get on the phone to Rocky Punk, sort of. This thing with the WWE thing though, Matt. For me, it's would he even get in the door? Because he'd have fucking, after the news story that came out this week, Regal will be still on the door going, no chance, mate. I love that news story, by the way. Punk was right. As he often is in these situations, it's just how he's right is the problem. Seth Rollins would be saying fuck off. Roman Reigns would probably be backing him up, saying fuck off. It's whether the arguments.
Yeah,
I'm sure Cody's already texting him, so you know what I mean. We're already halfway there, probably. But it's that's probably the picture.
I think that, like he's saying there, they'll definitely want him in, as JP said. They'll definitely try and bring him in, and I think they'll be with Punk, I dare to say it, a meet in the middle type thing. He'll want his demands, of course. They'll probably give him them to most of them, so he just comes in. And as Gareth said, maybe he won't do 10 matches a year, but even if he just does a 6-month stint as a little trial thing, just get him in at Chicago Survivor Series, which happens, as I say, to fall in Chicago.
Chances of that.
The timing, though, that's what I'm saying. Get him in, doesn't have to wrestle on telly. And I know you say about WWE, like you say, it's gone back to its basic thing now. They actually will let him tell more stories with Triple H running creative. So I think he'll be better on telly than he would have been coming back 5 years ago or whatever, where it was still trash every week and rematches and stuff. I hope it happens anyway. I just want to see it, just for the actual, just to see everyone kick off. I love all that, just seeing it all. Cody's come, Punk's coming. There'll be another one coming back soon. Don't worry about it. Leave the books all them in AEW and get all the proper ones back home for me.
I threw my world on today, JP. I threw it on YouTube. It just came up. My World with Jeff Jarrett talking the CM Punk situation. He literally said nothing. He was just oh yeah, Tony Khan did a really good job getting the statement out quickly, and then said that for an hour. But what he did say was, he was if I was CM Punk though, what I'd probably do is just start my own thing and just do 4 shows a year. The CM Punk show. I was he'd already have the baseball stadiums booked, wouldn't he, Jeff? That'd be
200 people.
He can help him out with that on the side, cash in hand.
He's probably already thinking that. Yeah.
Can I just say, I would want to see him on the Stone Cold sessions. I know that hasn't been around for a while. I would love.
He's going to talk, isn't he?
Yeah,
there's going to be.
He's got to come out soon,
things, JP. Two things are guaranteed here. There's going to be legal threats and legal action, in both directions, probably. Because, as clean as this allegedly is, because he was released with cause, which means AEW have justified themselves, which also probably means there's no period where he can't go work somewhere else. There's absolutely going to be toing and froing and fighting over the money lost and all of that stuff. That is an absolute nailed-on thing. But we're also going to get, despite that, he's turning up somewhere, whether it be Ariel Helwani, or he makes back up with Colt Cabana, or he finds some form, or he rings into GRAPPL Spotlight. We're open for business, Phil. Give us a call anytime. We know you watch us on YouTube. He's going to be somewhere. 100%. You can guarantee those two things, JP.
Oh, you can. He is going to speak. But like you say there, it's a very difficult legal situation, because it doesn't sound like he's got much kind of he can't be, otherwise he'll end up the Colt Cabana in all of this, won't he? And he'll end up being absolutely sued to high hell and be the kind of poorer party out of it, which would have a beautiful kind of irony to it, I suppose. But yeah, this is the thing. He can say it. I mean, I could just see him kicking off about the culture of the company and saying about how like mismanaged it
Saudi?
is and
Like,
childish.
what would he do when they're like, you got to go to Saudi Arabia, mate? Like, what happens then after everything he said?
Yeah.
He'd be Jordan Henderson, wouldn't he? He'd be like, oh, yeah, sound.
It's all right here, actually, isn't it?
it?
I thought Qatar was bad, and it turned out really lovely. And it's like, yeah, they're not torturing the people in front of you, Jordan, as you open your fucking curtains, mate. Like, it's happening behind closed doors.
He went on the VIP like stadium tour. He's, oh, it's actually quite nice. This, it's fine. It's not like what you read in the papers. So yeah, mate, they haven't took you to the death chambers, like where they,
Yeah.
like, they kill the dissidents.
It's like when they used to get like parents in at your school and they'd actually like clean up and stuff like that. So it looked like quite nice, you know, and like parents there. Hey,
like Liverpool on Eurovision, it was like that too.
A question though, like I've got for you is like, is 2023 CM Punk as valuable as 2021 CM Punk though, in terms of like a draw and things like that? Because obviously when he came to AEW in 2021, that was, you know, he'd been gone a long time. There'd been obviously the CM Punk chants in the crowd that had just gone on for years and years. Everyone was like anticipating this. He came in, obviously popped that massive number for Rampage, you know, on his debut. You know, that the first sort of few months of him in AEW were like really good numbers. But I don't know, it's weird like now because I think that as we've talked in the past, WWE's crowds changed. I feel like there's a certain negativity towards him amongst newer fans within AEW, certainly, and things like that. From what I've read, I don't think it sounds like it got the same negative reaction amongst the Chicago crowd. Like they didn't shit all, as far as I'm aware. Haven't seen it. They didn't shit all over it, did they? The fact that he wasn't there, is that true? I'm sure I've read kind of like sort of thing
massively.
The books
you know,
a little bit, weren't they, in the match?
Yeah,
so,
in spots.
Yeah.
you know, some of the ratings when he has been on stuff have underwhelmed. You know, not popped quite as large and as consistent as you'd think they would. So I don't know. Is he as big a draw? Does he have as much value? Given that he's someone who's causes problems in the locker room, given that he's somebody who physically can't consistently go like he used to. If he's not delivering the numbers either, like, do you want him? Do WWE at a period when they're in a real upturn and they've like their ratings are doing good? They're getting a lot of positivity towards their creativity and things like that in certain instances. Some of the match quality on pay-per-views seems to be like going in the right direction. Like, do they want to throw that in the mix? Is it?
We'll push back on that bit later on, mate.
It's yeah, you know, it's that juice worth the squeeze kind of thing. Like
it's whether you can sell it. I don't know whether JP would say the same. I think it's one of those where it's like you're absolutely right. We should call a spade a spade. The numbers are there's still like a bump with CM Punk when you look at like, you know, when he's on Collision, when he's not, the main event segments on Collision, his comeback in general. You can make the argument, but it's not as a stronger argument as it was when he first come in. You're absolutely right about that. You know, it's coming at quite a good time for him because, like, I think it literally came out the day before he got fired. Like, he was still AEW's #1 merch seller. So you can make the art. It's whether you want to make the argument is probably what I'd say, JP, because you could sell it. Because, you know, you're more in tune with this stuff than me, but you could sell it to, you know, do the beer after right fees, aren't they? They're about to renew. Oh, we've got this big star coming back, CM Punk. I think there's enough there that you can puff it up and make it sound bigger than it is, but it's definitely something to what Garrett's saying there, where it's softer than you would like. He's going to get to run away with it. Liam said it in the chat a couple of times, you know, Collision's going to go down the tubes now. It's going to be like your mate Russo, Matty, where it's going to be like, see, when I left, look what happens. Never mind the fact that it's head-to-head with the NFL. But, like, he's going to have that positive too, isn't he? But I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle with it, where he's clearly in a wrestling world where there aren't many draws. He's a draw, but to Garrett's point, it's how much and whether you can sell that, I think, is maybe more what it is.
It's also what version of CM Punk you're selling, because there is a version of CM Punk where he's kind of the CM Punk that we love, where that person is definitely interesting. And if you think of his time on Collision, it was a feud with Ricky Starks, but other than that, it was nothing substantial. And that's part of the problem, I think, with this, is that the booking itself has been, and it's because of the situation, because the engaging storylines, really, we never got them drawn out for particular long amounts of time, did we? And even the Moxley stuff, we kind of rushed through as well. And going back to the MJF stuff, like probably was like one of the things we thought, oh, good, at least he's done that. But we never got the Kenny stuff. We never got the, like, Hangman Page felt that was kind of like cut off effectively as soon as that promo had happened as well. But I think there is
Oh, yeah, Kingston was good.
Yeah, but again, it was like a kind of a short-term feud, and it's going to be interesting at some point when we do the podcast covering his run in AEW about where it is. We're going to see all the kind of missed opportunities. It's just, if you're bringing him back and it's kind of
matches, promos, and feuds, Matty, what's your issue? Sounds
great. I agree.
If it's unhinged CM Punk cutting pipe bomb style promos and laying waste to the competition, there is a value in that. And there is people who are hardcore behind WWE who would completely get on board with that stuff. And he could sell it that way. It's whether or not he can legally do that. And do they want him to do that as well? Because obviously there's a whole load of other griefs about it. I mean, he knows not to kind of swear on telly and whatnot, but he'll say pretty much most things. And
The Independent linked him to Boris Johnson and Donald Trump as far as problematic men in the news today. And if you saw that, JP, there's an article to it today where that is literally the headline. Problematic men taken down. Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, Phil Brooks.
I mean, in many ways, those guys kind of try to ruin Western democracy. We cannot level that thing at Phil Brooks. Donald Trump tried to steal an election. Again, I can't say Phil Brooks has done it. He kicked off in a press conference and acts like an arse fucking around other human beings. Again, I don't think we can put him into that category. But there's also the issue with him in wrestling. Like, does he want to stay in it? Because he's not really a success anywhere else, is he? And, like, you know, apart from being a landlord, clearly. So it's whether or not does he want to do that and be in the spotlight? And very clearly, yes. But it's like he kind of hates wrestling, but it's the thing that he's best at as well, by a country mile, and has the best mind for it. So is he gonna be able to do it? And I think if he has to negotiate with a team of writers about stuff on Raw, you just don't see that relationship lasting very long, do you? Whereas he just like, give me the fucking mic. I'm not talking to him. He's a stooge. It's just like, oh Christ, here we go again.